What's up, everybody? It's Ross here as we are in part 1 of our series, In My Feelings. And I'm really excited about this series. We're going to be looking at one story for 2 weeks in a row. And the story is found in Mark chapter 5. It's a story that's known as the story of the woman with the issue of blood. And she's been dealing with an internal bleeding issue for the past 12 years. And she has this thought that if I could just get close enough to Jesus to touch him, I will be healed. It's interesting to know that her bleeding was internal. You know, if I had a bloody nose right now, or if I had a cut on my finger, you'd be able to tell that I had pain because my pain would be external. Yet, there are so many of us that are dealing with pain that no one can see because the pain is on the inside. Something that we're hanging on to. Maybe it's our thought life, something that's causing us pain on the inside. I have a question for you as we kick off this series. Where is it that you may be bleeding on the inside? Where is it that you're bleeding where no one possibly sees what you're going through? The Bible says this woman, she'd been dealing with this issue for 12 years, and she had been working on it. She'd been trying to figure out how to get it fixed. She had seen many doctors, and nothing was working. In fact, in all of her attempts to make things better, the Bible says that it ended up just getting worse. I don't know about you, but in times like this is what it sounds like when I hear stories from many Christians. We're trying to do something to make our internal pain feel better, to make our thought life feel better, to make my heart, my soul feel better, but nothing seems to work. It's like, have you ever had a gordita crunch at midnight? It feels good in the moment, but 3 a.m. rolls around, you're trying to sleep, and it doesn't feel as good then. Notice the Bible never says that she didn't feel better. It says that her issue never got better. For so many of us, we're running to things that for moments they make us feel better, but it's not actually making our issue any better. In fact, sometimes it can make our issues on the inside even worse. Do you have a nickname that your friends or family call you? My family gives me a nickname. It's a pretty weird nickname. My nickname in my family is Pooh. And you're like, okay, Ross, how do you get that name from Ross? It's because my full name is William Ross Langston, and my whole life people have called me Ross, Rossi Pooh. My brother for a long time used to call me Rossi Poo Pants just to make fun of me. Then it went from there just to Poo Pants, and now it's simply just Pooh. Somehow, as time went on, my name got lost in translation, and now I'm just known as something that it doesn't really make sense how we went from my name to here. But this is exactly what happens with this woman. You know, we don't know her name. She's just identified as the woman with the issue of blood. Notice that she starts to identify with her issue. That she doesn't even have a name anymore. She's just known for her issue. This is what happens to so many of us. We start to identify with the pain that we've experienced. We start to identify with our issues. This is where we start to think things like, I'm a loser, or I'm no good, I'm a lost cause. It's where we say things like, well, I identify as. It's where we start to believe things that are not true. We start to think to ourselves, it's just the way I was made. It's just who I am. It's just my DNA. It'll never change. It's just my genetics. But friends, something happens when our genetics meet Jesus. He'll start to change our thought life. And in turn, he'll start to change our language. He'll start to change everything about us, starting from the inside out. There's something really interesting I want you to notice about this story in Mark chapter 5. The woman, she's been dealing with this issue for 12 years. I can only imagine the thoughts that she's had. Why am I even here? Why am I even trying? I've tried everything else. Why don't I just give up? But the Bible says that she had another thought. The Bible says she had a thought that if I could just touch Jesus, I'd be healed. Do you know, friends, that thoughts are optional? That just because you have a thought doesn't mean that the thought needs to have you. The only thoughts that matter are the ones that you act on. Let me say that again. The only thoughts that matter are the ones that you act on. So here's how we're closing it out today. It's this. Depression isn't something I have. My language has changed. Depression is something that I deal with. My past is not something that identifies me. The pain that I have maybe on the inside that no one else sees, it isn't defining me. It's something that I deal with. I like that language so much because here's the truth I want everyone to know today. You can only deal with what you're real with. You can only deal with what you're real with. And who are you real with? My suggestion to you today, if you have pain on the inside, you're lost in your feelings, you're lost in your thought life, there are things that you've considered to be true that simply just aren't true. How are you dealing with it? The best way to deal with it is to get real with it. Talk to somebody about what you're feeling. Talk to somebody about what you're dealing with. Talk to somebody about the areas of your life where you're bleeding on the inside. Because God has given us great friends. God has given us leaders, people who we can chat with and we can talk about, because He wants us to deal with the issues on the inside.